I thought I was doing everything right after turning 65. I watched what I ate, took my medications on time, and even walked every morning. But one day, I collapsed while trimming my garden hedge. That scare changed everything. Turns out I was making some quiet but deadly health mistakes that nearly cost me my life. And if you're over 65, there's a good chance you're making some of them too without even knowing it. Let me walk you through what I learned the hard way, so you don't have to. The silent traps of self-medication, after 65, why a pill for everything can backfire, and how it almost ruined my kidneys. I'll never forget the day I realized I was unintentionally harming myself with something that was supposed to help me, my own medicine cabinet. For years, I followed the same routine. Wake up, grab a glass of water, and take a handful of pills, blood pressure, cholesterol, a multivitamin, something for digestion, and an occasional painkiller for my knees. Most of them were prescribed, sure, but over time, I started adding things I thought would help me feel better. A friend at the community center told me about turmeric pills for inflammation. Another swore by magnesium. Then came the fish oil, a daily aspirin just in case, and a popular sleep supplement I found at the pharmacy. It felt harmless. I never felt dizzy, never missed a dose. But slowly, something started to change, and I didn't even notice that at first. It was subtle, more frequent bathroom trips, strange headaches, and a constant dry mouth. I chalked it up to aging, just part of being in my late 60s, I told myself, but deep down, I had a nagging feeling something wasn't right. That feeling became undeniable. One chilly morning when I collapsed in the kitchen, I had only bent down to pick up a spoon I dropped, and the next thing I remember, I was lying on the floor, my wife was screaming my name, and everything felt like it was underwater. Paramedics arrived within minutes, and after a whirlwind of tests at the hospital, I got the shocking news. My kidneys were failing. I sat there stunned. How? Oh, I asked the doctor. I eat okay. I walk every day. I've never even smoked. He looked me in the eye and said, "You're overmed. Your kidneys are overworked from filtering too many substances, even the natural ones." It turns out the mix of prescriptions, supplements, and over-the-counter medications I was taking created a toxic cocktail inside my body. No one had coordinated them. No one had checked if they interacted. And worst of all, I never thought to tell my doctor about the supplements I was taking. Here's what I learned the hard way. Lesson 1. Just because it's natural doesn't mean it's safe. I had assumed that things like turmeric, magnesium, and fish oil couldn't possibly be dangerous. But when taken alongside blood pressure meds or blood thinners, they can change how your body absorbs or reacts to your prescription drugs. Some supplements thin your blood, others affect your liver or kidneys. It's not about whether they're natural, it's about whether they're necessary and compatible with what you're already taking. Lesson 2. The over-the-counter trap-in killers like ibuprofen or naproxen seemed harmless. I'd pop one when my knees acted up and move on. But these NSAIDs, when taken regularly, especially at our age, can cause internal bleeding, kidney issues, and even raise your blood pressure. I never took more than 2 at a time, but over months and years that was enough to cause serious damage. And don't even get me started on those sleep aids that claim to be gentle. Many of them interfere with brain chemistry and leave you groggy or unsteady the next day. A recipe for a dangerous fall. Lesson 3. Polypharmacy is real and deadly. There's a term doctors use that I never heard until it almost ruined me. It means taking multiple medications at once, often without anyone managing the total picture. Most people over 65 are on at least 5 medications, and many, like me, add supplements or occasional over-the-counter pills to the mix. The trouble is, your body doesn't process drugs the same way it did in your 40s or 50s. Kidneys, slow. Down the liver becomes more sensitive. What used to be fine can suddenly become toxic. And if one medication affects how your body processes another, the effects multiply. Lesson 4. Be honest with your doctor about everything. I thought my doctor was only interested in my prescriptions. I didn't think it mattered that I was taking turmeric or melatonin. I was wrong. When he found out after my hospitalization, he shook his head and said, "You should have told me. This all could have been avoided." It was a wake-up call. Now, I walk into every appointment with a written list of everything I take, including supplements, herbal teas, occasional painkillers, and even topical creams. Everything gets reviewed. Lesson 5. Clean out your medicine cabinet. Every 6 months we all do spring cleaning. Why not do a health check on our meds? Now, twice a year, I sit down with my pharmacist and go over every bottle, blister pack, and jar. We discuss whether I still need it, if there's a safer alternative, or if 2 things might be working against each other. It's simple, it's free, and it could save your life. Since making these changes, my kidney function has stabilized. I'm more careful. I ask more questions. I don't add anything new without first checking with a professional, even if it's something my neighbor swears by. Looking back, I wasn't being reckless. I genuinely thought I was helping myself. But when you're over 65, the rules of the game change. What worked before might be dangerous now. And trust me, the cost of getting it wrong isn't just a hospital bill. It's your independence, your comfort, your life. If you're like I was thinking, it's just a vitamin, or it's just a pain pill, take a minute, make a list, call your doctor, ask questions. Because sometimes, the most dangerous health mistakes are the ones we make quietly, with the best intentions. The breakfast mistake that nearly triggered my stroke, the shocking truth about what I used to eat every morning, and what doctors warned me about. You'd think breakfast is the safest meal of the day, right? That's what I believed too, until the day a neurologist looked me in the eye and said, "What you eat in the morning is silently raising your stroke risk." It floored me. For over a decade, my mornings followed the same routine. Wake up, shuffle to the kitchen, and prepare what I thought was a healthy senior breakfast. A glass of orange juice, 2 slices of toasted white bread with butter, and sometimes jam. If I had time, maybe some cornflakes with milk or a muffin. On Sundays, it sounds innocent, even comforting, but that breakfast, it turns out, was a silent time bomb. Let me walk you through what I learned. Because if you're over 65, there's a good chance you're making the same mistake I did. The orange juice myth. Every morning, I'd pour myself a tall glass of orange juice, not the fresh squeezed kind, but the store-bought 100% juice with pulp. I felt good about it. Vitamin C, right? Good for immunity. And it tasted great. But what I didn't realize was that even 100% juice is loaded with natural sugar, more than a can of soda. In some cases, my doctor told me, your body doesn't care if it's cane sugar or fruit sugar. It reacts the same way with a blood sugar spike. Worse, drinking fruit juice without any fiber like you'd get from eating a whole orange causes your blood sugar to rise quickly, then crash. Over time, these sharp fluctuations wear down your insulin response, stress your heart, and raise inflammation in your blood vessels. For someone like me, already dealing with borderline hypertension, it was like pouring gasoline on a fire. The white bread and butter problem toast, simple, warm, comforting. I always had 2 slices in the morning, soft white bread, toasted to perfection, slathered in butter. Sometimes with jam, sometimes not. I thought, it's just bread. Everyone eats bread. But white bread is a refined carbohydrate, stripped of fiber and nutrients. Once it hits your stomach, it quickly turns into glucose, sugar, and spikes your blood sugar, just like candy. Combined with butter, saturated fat, and jam or sugar, it becomes a dangerous cocktail, especially for aging arteries. Over time, this combo contributes to arterial plaque buildup, a condition known as atherosclerosis, the very thing that narrows blood vessels and sets the stage for strokes and heart attacks. Looking back, I now see that I was starting every day with a double dose of inflammation, sugar, and saturated fat, and I had no idea. The healthy cereal trap on weekends, or when I was feeling extra motivated, I'd switch to cereal, cornflakes, or bran flakes with low-fat milk, no sugar added. I thought it was a smart choice. But here's what I didn't realize. Most boxed cereals, even the plain ones, have a high glycemic index. That means they break down quickly in the body and spike your blood sugar, once again leading to insulin resistance, inflammation, and vascular stress. To make it worse, I often ate them without any protein or healthy fat on the side, meaning I'd be hungry again in 2 hours. Reaching for a mid-morning snack, often a cookie or something else sweet, my breakfast wasn't fueling me, it was setting me up for a day of cravings, crashes, and inflammation. The wake-up call. It wasn't until I had a sudden bout of dizziness and blurred vision that I realized something was wrong. I was helping my neighbor lift a box when I suddenly couldn't feel my left hand properly. It passed after a minute, but my wife insisted I go to the hospital. After a series of scans and tests, the doctor told me I had likely experienced a TIA, a transient ischemic attack, or mini stroke. It's a warning sign, a temporary blockage of blood flow to the brain that doesn't cause permanent damage, but often precedes a major stroke. That scared me more than anything else ever had. I asked him, but I exercise. I'm not overweight, I don't eat fast food. How is this happening? He smiled gently and asked, what do you eat for breakfast? When I told him, he looked concerned. You're starting your day with sugar, refined carbs, and saturated fat. That's a disaster for your brain and heart. I was stunned. I thought breakfast was my best meal. Turns out, it was the most dangerous. What I eat now, and why it matters after that hospital visit. I overhauled my mornings now. My breakfast looks something like this. A couple of boiled or scrambled eggs for protein and healthy fat, a slice of whole grain or sprouted bread rich in fiber and B vitamins, half an avocado loaded with potassium and heart-friendly fat, a cup of green tea or black coffee, no sugar sometimes, a handful of berries or a small apple whole. Fruit, not juice. This kind of breakfast keeps my blood sugar stable, fuels my muscles and brain, and most importantly supports my vascular health. I feel clearer, my energy lasts longer, and I haven't had a dizzy spell since. The takeaway, breakfast can be a lifesaver or a landmine if you're over 65. You can't afford to start your day on autopilot. The foods you eat first thing in the morning set the tone for your blood pressure, brain clarity, blood sugar, and even your emotional state for the entire day. And for those of us trying to avoid strokes, diabetes, or cognitive decline, breakfast might just be the most important medicine we take each day. So here's what I suggest. Ditch the fruit juice. Eat whole fruit instead. Avoid white bread and sugary spreads. Choose whole grains and healthy fats. Skip processed cereals. Choose oats, eggs, or Greek yogurt with nuts. Add protein and fiber. They keep you full and your blood sugar steady. Watch out for low-fat labels. They often mean high sugar. I know it's hard to change habits. Breakfast is deeply personal. It's tied to routine, memory, comfort. But once I saw how dangerous my old routine had become, I couldn't unsee it. I had to choose between comfort and my life. And trust me, choosing life tastes a lot better. Walking isn't enough. The fitness myth that made me weaker, how my daily routine gave me false confidence while my muscles slowly vanished. If there's one thing I thought I had figured out in my 60s, it was exercise. Every morning, I slipped on my sneakers, stepped outside, and walked for about 30 to 40 minutes, sometimes with my wife, sometimes alone. I'd wave to neighbors, take in the sunshine, and return home feeling proud. I've done my part for the day, I'd tell myself, reaching for my tea and toast. I truly believed I was doing everything right. After all, walking is low impact, easy on the joints, and it gets the blood flowing. The doctor said movement was important, and I was moving. What more could I do? But here's what no one told me. After age 60, walking alone isn't enough. That might sound surprising, even upsetting. But I learned this truth the hard way, when my legs started feeling weaker. My balance got shakier, and a seemingly minor fall put me on the ground for nearly 5 minutes. The warning signs I ignored. It started gradually. Climbing stairs became harder. I found myself holding the railing tighter each time. Getting up from low chairs took more effort. My arms felt weaker when I carried grocery bags. At first I brushed it off as normal aging, but then I slipped on a wet tile near the sink, and I couldn't get up without help. It wasn't just the fall that scared me. It was the realization that I didn't have the strength to push myself off the floor that shook me to my core. I went to my doctor and described everything. He nodded and asked me a question I wasn't prepared for. Besides walking, do you do any strength training? I stared at him, confused. You mean like lifting weights? I'm not a gym guy. Isn't walking enough? He gave me a long, serious look and said, not after 65. Not if you want to stay strong, mobile, and independent. The science, why walking isn't the whole picture here. That's what I learned in that appointment, and what I wish someone had told me years earlier. After age 30, we start losing muscle mass. It's called sarcopenia, and it accelerates after 60. If we don't challenge our muscles with resistance, not just movement, we lose strength faster than we realize. Walking is excellent for cardiovascular health. Yes, it improves circulation, mood, and helps with balance. But it does very little to build or maintain muscle. That means your legs, back, core, and even arms get weaker, even if you're walking daily. That's exactly what was happening to me. Was staying active on paper but gradually becoming frail in reality. What strength training looks like for people over 65 now. Before you imagine me bench pressing heavy weights or doing squats in a gym, let me be clear, that's not what I do. My strength routine is simple, safe, and can be done right at home. Bodyweight exercises. I started with sit to stand from a chair, wall push-ups, and light squats while holding onto a counter. Resistance bands. These are gentle but effective. I use them for bicep curls, shoulder raises, and leg extensions. Light dumbbells. I started with 2-pound weights and worked my way up to 5 pounds. I focus on form, not size. Balance. Work. I stand on one leg while brushing my teeth or hold onto the back of a chair and try gentle heel-to-toe walks. Core activation. Simple pelvic tilts and breathing exercises to strengthen the muscles around my spine and hips. I do this 3 times a week, 20 to 30 minutes at a time. That's it. And let me tell you, it's changed everything. The results? I felt within weeks, within a month of starting strength training, I could stand up from the couch without bracing myself. I had more power in my step. My arms didn't feel like noodles when I carried groceries. And most of all, my confidence returned. It wasn't just physical. I walked taller. I moved more freely. I felt younger. You don't realize how important muscle strength is until you lose it. It's what keeps you from falling. It's what lets you carry laundry, open jars, and go upstairs without fear. And believe me, fear of falling becomes a very real thing after 65. I used to worry I'd be one fall away from a walker or even a nursing home. That fear is gone now, replaced with a sense of strength I hadn't felt in years. Strength training helps more than just muscles here. That's what shocked me most. Strength training didn't just make my body feel better, it sharpened my mind. Studies show that resistance exercise boosts brain health, improving memory, clarity, and mood. It releases powerful hormones that fight depression and protect against cognitive decline. I genuinely feel clearer and calmer on the days I train. That also helps with blood sugar, bone density, joint stability, and even sleep quality. So if you're dealing with prediabetes, osteoporosis, arthritis, or insomnia, strength training might be the missing piece. The dangerous lie? I believed for years. I told myself, I walk every day. That's all I need. But that mindset almost cost me my independence. It gave me a false sense of security while my muscles were quietly shrinking. No one warned me, not my friends, not even my first doctor. That's why I'm sharing this with you. If you're over 65 and only walking for exercise, you're not doing enough to stay strong. You may not feel it yet, but weakness builds slowly, and when it shows up, it can be devastating. How to get started safely? Here's my beginner's checklist. The same one I gave to my brother, who just turned 70. Talk to your doctor. Make sure you're cleared for light resistance work. Start small. Even 5 minutes a day is better than nothing. Use your body, sit-to stand. Wall push-ups and step-ups are great starters. Buy resistance bands. Inexpensive, safe, and versatile. Track your progress. It's motivating to see how many reps you can add over time. Stay consistent. 2 to 3 times a week is enough to see major results. Find a partner. I train with my wife sometimes, and we keep each other on track. You don't need a gym. You don't need expensive equipment. You just need intentional movement that pushes your muscles gently, but consistently. Growing older doesn't mean growing weaker. If I could go back 10 years, I wouldn't change my walking habit, but I would add strength training from the very start. It's the one thing that's made the biggest difference in how I move, feel, and live. Don't wait until you fall. Don't wait until your knees ache or your back seizes up. Start now, even if it's just 5 minutes today, because aging isn't about sitting back. It's about fighting smart. And trust me, you're stronger than you think. Ignoring this one symptom almost cost me my independence, the small sign I brushed off until it landed me in the emergency room. It's funny how the smallest things can signal something big. For me, it started with a twinge, just a slight stiffness in my left foot. Every morning when I got out of bed, I'd take a few steps and it would loosen up, so I brushed it off. No big deal, I told myself. Just slept funny. A few weeks later, the stiffness turned into a numb tingling, like my sock was bunched up even when it wasn't. Still, I ignored it. Then one day, while walking through the grocery store, I tripped on absolutely nothing and nearly fell flat on my face. That's when the denial stopped feeling like strength and started feeling like foolishness. But by the time I got it checked, it was almost too late. The symptom, I shouldn't have ignored that tingling, that mild foot drop. It was a warning. My body was trying to get my attention, but I wasn't listening. Not at first, I thought. It might be poor circulation, or maybe just old age catching up with me. And like many people, over 65, I was reluctant to complain. I didn't want to seem dramatic. I didn't want to be a burden. I certainly didn't want to end up in a hospital bed over something as minor as a weird foot sensation. But when I finally went in for a checkup at my wife's insistence, the neurologist delivered the news bluntly. You're experiencing early-stage peripheral neuropathy. It's likely related to nerve compression in your lower back, and if it progresses, you could lose your ability to walk without assistance. I felt like I'd been hit with a brick. How could this happen? I wasn't in pain. I was still active. I thought serious health problems were supposed to announce themselves with drama, not gentle nudges. Turns out, many don't. What is peripheral neuropathy, and why it's so dangerous? Peripheral neuropathy is a condition where the nerves in your limbs become damaged, often starting with tingling or numbness in the feet or hands. Over time, this can lead to weakness, poor balance, burning pain, and even loss of mobility. The causes vary: diabetes, vitamin deficiencies, spinal issues, or even long-term medication use. In my case, it was a combination of nerve compression in my lower back due to aging discs and posture problems, and undiagnosed B12 deficiency. The terrifying part: many people don't notice the symptoms until the damage is advanced. By the time the numbness turns into pain or weakness, the nerves may already be severely impaired. If I had continued ignoring that small symptom, the mild foot drop, I might have ended up needing a cane or walker within a year. The day it became an emergency, about 2 weeks after the near fall in the store, I had another episode, this time while going down my front porch steps. My left foot didn't lift high enough, caught the edge of the step, and I tumbled forward. Thankfully, I caught myself on the railing and avoided serious injury, but it was a close call. That night, I went to urgent care. The doctor performed a series of balance and nerve response tests. He looked at my feet, my back, and then my blood work. The verdict? My nerves were misfiring due to compression, and my B12 was dangerously low, something I'd never even thought to check. They started me on supplements, physical therapy, and referred me to a spine specialist. I had to start learning a new word: neuromuscular rehabilitation, a fancy term for helping my brain and muscles learn to work together again. How this affected my independence, let me be clear. I wasn't paralyzed, I wasn't bedridden, but I was vulnerable, and I knew it. Losing confidence in your legs is like losing confidence in your freedom. I suddenly hesitated before stepping into the shower. I gripped handrails like my life depended on them. I even avoided carrying the trash out at night, just in case I tripped again. It wasn't just the physical limitations, it was the mental shift, the creeping fear that I was one bad step away from being housebound, or worse, dependent on someone else. For a man who had always prided himself on self-sufficiency, this was emotionally crushing. But the good news? I caught it early. Enough. I took it seriously, and I changed course. What I did to regain control: daily foot checks every morning. I checked the soles of my feet, the arches, and the toes. I look for swelling, color changes, and sensitivity. Catching changes early makes a world of difference. Regular balance exercises: my physical therapist had me doing simple things like heel-to-toe walking, standing on one foot while holding a counter, and practicing getting up from the floor without using my hands. These might sound simple, but they retrain the brain to maintain balance. Vitamin B12 supplementation: my deficiency was mild but impactful. I started with high-dose oral B12 and, later, weekly injections. The tingling faded within a few weeks. Posture and back strengthening: turns out, years of slouching and weak back muscles were compressing my spine and affecting the nerves in my legs. I now do gentle yoga, core strengthening, and use a lumbar cushion anytime I sit for long periods. Neurologist follow-ups: I don't skip checkups anymore. Even if I feel okay, I get tested because I learned that damage can occur quietly, beneath the surface. The lesson: small symptoms can be big warnings. If you feel tingling, numbness, or weakness in your limbs, don't ignore it. If you're tripping more often, or feel less sure on your feet, don't chalk it up to just aging. And if you feel like your body is whispering something's wrong, listen. Getting older doesn't mean surrendering to decline. It means becoming more attentive and more proactive. The truth is, I almost lost my independence because I thought I was being tough. But real toughness isn't about ignoring pain, it's about taking responsibility before things get worse. Protecting your independence starts with awareness today. I walk with confidence again, not because I'm stronger than before, but because I'm smarter. I listen to my body. I track symptoms. I act early. And most importantly, I've let go of the pride that once kept me silent. You deserve to age with dignity, strength, and freedom. But that doesn't happen by chance. It happens through awareness and action. So, the next time something feels off, don't wait. That small symptom might be your greatest warning. Why resting too much can be more dangerous than overworking the day. I realized my favorite recliner was slowly killing me, and what I did about it. If you walked into my living room 5 years ago, you'd see a man at peace. That man was me, settled into my plush recliner, a cup of tea on the side table, television remote in hand, maybe the newspaper across my lap. To an outsider, I looked like someone enjoying retirement.com, comfortable, rested. But what I didn't realize at the time was that I was slowly falling into a trap, a rest trap that nearly stole my mobility, my energy, and my health. You see, we've all been told that rest is important as we age, and it is. But what we aren't told nearly enough is this: too much rest is just as dangerous, if not more, than overworking ourselves. Let me explain how my love for rest nearly cost me everything, and how I pulled myself out before it was too late. The recliner that became my prison after turning 65, I told myself I had earned the right to slow down. And in many ways, that's true. Life had been busy for decades, raising kids, working long hours, running errands, managing stress. Now finally, I could take a breath. But I took more than a breath. I took entire afternoons. What began as short breaks turned into long stretches of rest. One episode of a show became 3. I started skipping my afternoon walks when the weather wasn't perfect. If I was a little tired after breakfast, I'd lay down for just 10 minutes and wake up 2 hours later. At the time, it felt harmless. My body didn't complain much. I wasn't in pain, but something was shifting. Slowly, the decline I didn't see coming. It wasn't obvious at first. But over months, I noticed my energy levels dropped, even after long rests. I started waking up stiffer, taking longer to get moving. My legs felt heavy after sitting too long. I got winded going up the stairs, something that never used to happen. My blood pressure crept up, even though my diet hadn't changed. But the most concerning change, I stopped feeling like me. I became passive. My days blurred together. I was existing, not living. The worst part, I had no idea that the very thing I thought was helping me rest was actually the reason I was declining. The science behind too much rest. Here's what I later learned from a geriatric specialist that completely changed my perspective. When we sit or lie down for too long, especially for hours at a time, several dangerous things happen inside our bodies. Muscle breakdown. Our muscles weaken surprisingly fast without regular use. Even just a week of inactivity can lead to noticeable strength loss, especially in the legs and core. Slowed circulation. Blood flows more sluggishly, increasing the risk of blood clots, especially in the legs. Deep vein thrombosis. Joint stiffness and pain. Joints become less lubricated and more prone to stiffness, arthritis, pain, and inflammation. Insulin resistance. Long periods of sitting reduce insulin sensitivity, which can raise your blood sugar and lead to or worsen type 2 diabetes. Mental fog and mood changes. Sedentary behavior is directly linked to depression, anxiety, and cognitive decline. And guess what? This all happens even if you do a little exercise here and there. If the majority of your day is sedentary, the body reacts, and not in your favor. My wake-up call. Everything came to a head when I caught the flu. It wasn't even a bad case, but after 3 days of mostly lying down, I felt like I'd aged 10 years. My legs were weak. I couldn't balance. properly, I nearly fell getting out of bed. When I told my doctor, he said, "Your body isn't used to movement anymore. Even a short illness becomes dangerous when your baseline activity is too low." That line haunted me. When your baseline activity is too low. I thought I was being gentle with myself. Turns out, I was deconditioning myself. Bit by bit, day by day. How I turned it around once I understood the danger of too much rest. I knew I had to act, not later, but immediately. I made small changes that had massive impact over time. 1. The 30-minute rule. Every 30 minutes of sitting, I'd stand up and move, even if just for 2 to 3 minutes. Stretch, walk to the kitchen, do shoulder rolls, anything. This one habit alone woke my body up like never before. Point 2. I scheduled movement, not just exercise. Instead of relying on a single 30-minute walk per day, I started sprinkling movement throughout my day. 10 squats while brushing my teeth. 10 shoulder rolls while watching TV. A short stroll around the house every hour. Calf raises while doing the dishes. 3. I got rid of my recliner. Yes, really. I replaced it with a firm, upright chair that encourages posture and limits naps. I started lying down only when I truly needed sleep, not just out of boredom or habit. 4. I rebuilt my day with purpose. Before, my day was reactive, led by the TV schedule or how tired I felt. Now I structure my day with intention. Morning, light walks. Mid-morning, stretching. Afternoon, housework or gardening. Evening, music or journaling. Every hour has a purpose, and that purpose is movement and engagement. 5. I started tracking steps, not obsessively, but enough to make sure I didn't have too many sedentary days back to back. My target is modest, 5,000 steps, but hitting it consistently has made a huge difference. What rest is supposed to look like didn't get me wrong. I still rest, but now I understand what quality rest looks like. Short and intentional. A 20-minute nap after lunch is restorative. A 3-hour recliner binge is not balanced with activity. Rest feels better when it follows movement. I earn my downtime now, and it's more satisfying. Mentally active. I read, I listen to music, I meditate, but I no longer go passive for hours. My mind and body stay engaged. Rest is a tool, not a lifestyle. When it becomes your default setting, it starts to work against you. Growing older, not slower. Here's the truth I wish more of us heard. Slowing down is natural. Stopping is dangerous. As we age, our bodies do need more recovery, but that recovery must be balanced with purposeful movement, stimulation, and structure. The real threat isn't overworking yourself. It's undermoving to the point of decline. I used to think that energy was something I needed to conserve. Now I know energy is something I have to generate, and I do that through movement, engagement, and staying ahead of the slow creep of stillness. Final thoughts. That recliner in my living room wasn't evil. It wasn't malicious, but it was seductive, and in the end, dangerous. It made doing nothing feel comforting, but it stole strength I didn't know I was losing. If you're over 65, I urge you rest, but don't retreat. Get up, stretch, walk, dance, garden, clean a drawer. Swing your arms. Anything but sitting for hours on end, because aging well isn't about doing less. It's about doing what matters with consistency, intention, and movement. Choose motion. Choose strength. Choose life.